For us, I don't care how much German you might be in the street. That'll be the next one. But anyway, there we were with P-47, and things went well. And then we got the aircraft. Ah, that Mustang, that P-51. You know, I looked at it this morning, flying the 787 in the F-16. As I told you, I flew the 102 and the 106. And so they made them a little fast and all that, but as an aircraft, they have made one before or after that P-51. It was the pilot's dream. We could go up 25, 30,000 feet. Somebody called in some bogies. It didn't bother me. We just wondered how many and what way they were coming from. Because that 51 could hang right in there with them all the way in speed and climb and whatever they wanted to do it better. So we were pretty cocky bunch by then. The speed of code was high, and we done well. So it was decided, the word 15th Air Force, and the word was some of the bomber pilots were a little concerned that they were going to be escorted by this black group. So with a couple of bottles of Johnny Walkers, I went to the repo depot, and I tell you, you could take a case of scotch and you can go to the depot and you can get a half side of beef, 2 or 3 tires of prop, and whatever else, depending how fresh the sergeant was, you could come back with a 6x6 loaded. And we got the reddest paint that we could find. And came back and by a unanimous decision, painted the tails of all 72 of those P-51s red. Just a red as you could see. Not camouflage, red. Because we wanted the bomber pilots to know when they were being escorted. And we wanted the German pilots to know when we were up there. And we became known as the Red Tails. About 3 months, bomber pilots changed a little bit. They were the Red Tail Angels. 200 bomber escort missions by war's end. The 332nd had never lost a bomber to enemy interception. One, very simple. Leo Davis Jr., the commander. When we all started out back at Tuskegee, he didn't have any more flying time than I did. But West Point of 36, what a man, what a character, what a man of perseverance and fortitude. That story is a story within itself. 4 years at West Point, he was totally and completely ostracized. Nobody in his class spoke to him. The only sport he could participate in was golf. He could play it by himself. 36 out of 275. He finished 35th in his class. Our leader. And we were proud that he was the commander of that 99. Just the same sense when we went into 15th and started bomber escort. He said, if by chance you become an ace, you're going to do it in the defense of these bombers. Because some of the other units, in their desire to shoot down 5 airplanes, as soon as somebody said bogey, they looked and said where, and took off and left the bombers here, totally unprotected and exposed. And that was not the mission. The mission was to protect those bombers. And this we did. And we would escort them right to the IP point, to the point where that anti-aircraft was just so heavy until if you let your wheels down, you could probably roll over. And that's when you sort of pull away and let them make that bomb run. But you wanted to be sure that you were over on the other side when they had their recovery point to start to it. Of course, this is where the German fighters would be. They were looking for damaged, stragglers, and cripples. The bombers by then, formation-wise, had sort of broken apart, so they didn't have their own crossfire of protection. And the German fighters, they could have interceptors, they could have a force day on an individual basis with a bomber. But they were being escorted by that 332nd. That surprise when they come charging down. They look and who these red tails were. And we would stay with those cripples, damaged or what have you, and get them back across those apps to safety. And many of bomber crew would tell you that it was the red tail that got him home. It was the red tail that he saw being shot down in the protection of him. But that was our mission and we carried it out. So then, there we were, and of course the most historical manner of flight with this P-51 was a 1,600-mile flight from Fort Italy to Berlin and back. 5.5 hours. And it was on that mission that they encountered the first U.N. 262 jet in December. Didn't stop the P-51s, they shot down 5 of them. Somebody didn't tell them that they weren't supposed to do that. This aircraft was so superior that you just weren't, but they were flying the P-51 and they thought that airplane could do anything, and they could, and did for them. So the war was over and we came home to America. No ticker tape, no fanfare, no nothing, just a unit and a group of people who went overseas to come back. We left 66 over there. 33 were taken prisoners of war. But a group of people came home very proud of themselves because they had defeated the best that Hitler and Göring had put against them. And they had proven that if you take any group of people and you give them the proper training, the equipment to operate, and the opportunity to exercise that training, they'll do extraordinary things. And these men, of course, got back and they formed the 477 composite group that died in the field. Later on, to Lockburn in Ohio. 325s, 3 squadrons, and 3 squadrons of P-47. And when VGA Day came, we had just passed a couple of weeks before our ORI, and we were all set to go to the Far East to continue. But bomber boys never got a chance to demonstrate what capability they had. The war ended, and of course again, the same senator, now President, Harris Truman, in 1947, made the Air Force a separate, independent department like the Army and the Navy. And in addition to that, in 1948, they took the history and the performance of that 99th 332nd Fighter Group, and the history told them that it was a waste to operate any military on a segregated basis. In East Time, Executive Order 1981, it said, no more in our military establishment will there be segregated units. And this was put to test in 1951 out of Ulsan in Korea, where this same Colonel Davis, and many of us, when we pushed that red button, wanting to know where these ex-P-51 pilots were. And they reactivated the 51st Fighter Group at Ulsan, that many of them came together as an integrated fighter group. Neil Davis, the commander. Of course, later he earned his 3rd star. People like Chaplain James and the B-25s and others, our first Black Horse General, and all of it. So what you said then, what is the memorial of the Tuskegee Airmen? And we can only say, look about you, look at the diversity in this room. Look here on Hill Air Force Base and see how manpower and woman power is being used. Not by the complexion of their skin or their religion. They're being used by the positions that they fill and the performance that they do day by day. Look at our government in Washington and the complexion of that that staff. And look about you at your local government. What did the 332nd do? They simply demonstrated that in America, our diversity is an advantage. And so long as we take people and treat and work with them on an individual basis, we'll be able to lead democracy, freedom, and justice for all. Thank you. Answer any questions? Yes, sir.
Did you have any forewarning, or how long before you were exposed to this? Or was it a surprise?
Our intelligence people had told us that in the defense of Berlin, they had a few of these jets. They had told us that they had a limited endurance, about 45 minutes. They had told us that they had greater range because they had a cannon. And it, of course, had a longer range than our 50 calibers. But we were to be aware of the fact that they could not engage in the combat as we were accustomed to having with the 109s and the 190s. If they couldn't hit that bomber train on the first pass, or if they made a pass on the protecting fighters, it was a pass, split S, and they were headed back home. So we knew as you were sitting there, if someone would call in at 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, aircraft approaching, all the pilots in the 332nd would do would be to try to time it and just push forward on that stick, on that 51, so that when they did come in, you were sitting there right on the red line, you'd be looking about 500 miles an hour on that P-51, and they, those persons, they could do about 550 or 600. So it was simply a matter of, as they would overshoot you, you had a couple of shots before they pulled away. So they really weren't a threat.
How close was your coordination with the British, especially in Africa, you know, with like their ground support?
Very close. We were under the British logistically. And as a matter of fact, I kept saying here, Johnny Walls, the greatest advantage of being assigned to the British back then was additional work. While the Americans were getting turkey and Okwega, when we draw our rations, we were drawing Johnny Red and Johnny Black Scotch.
Briefed by a British,
yes.
And because it had to be, didn't it?
Yes, we were briefed. The intelligence briefings were by Britishers. Yes. Yes, sir.
What was your score? Killed.
Oh, for the entire group, 250 destroyed. On the ground, about another 200 plus. One of the biggest days on that, they were coming out of Budapest. But on your bomber escort, as you were going toward your target, your flight leaders would always take note of the direction in which the interceptors were coming, or if you were flying over a field, or have you, because again, if we were relieved by another unit, on our return home, we did what was called targets of opportunity. We dropped down on the deck and anything that was moving, and we were accustomed to this from the old 12th Air Force days. We'd have a field day, just shooting up airfields and hangars, anything else on the highway, just to be honorary about it. We didn't want to take that ammunition back home anyway. And not we, because I wasn't on the site, but one field that they hit, they destroyed 83 aircraft. And on some of the missions, one day they shot down 13 and didn't lose a red tail. Another one they shot down 25 and only lost 2 people. So we did quite well in that sense. Yes, sir.
One of the big problems with the Messerschmitt 252 was that Hitler got his hands in it. Remember that thing was full of dirt. He decided to make a beautiful attack bomber with the invasion forces at D-Day. That's what he really wanted to do. So he screwed around with the Luftwaffe and tried to learn those kind of tactics. Instead of early in the war giving fighters like he should have been, he screwed around. My encounter with the ME-262 was on the ground. I was a ground pounder reconnaissance club. I don't know if you ever been in southern Bavaria. Germany, they were using off the freeways, automobiles. They filled in the center, in the degrees, rolled them back in the floors, and would fire off the thing. You said the limitation was a degree fuel. Definitely has a fuel. But if they used them properly, they would take the whole bomb. And that's the B-51. That's one of the beautiful aircraft, flying, fairly flying, doing the work studies, and some of the funnest. Those walking pilots flew them 50 times, 12 feet long. Actually, they used to come kids, which they were best there. They were totally dedicated people. Hitler was not letting
We had that same information. He was a stupid dive bomber attack mentality, and didn't use the aircraft for its capability. And you're right.
we found 3 of them intact on the other bomb, loaded ready to go.
The only thing that I could for is to the bomb died and out there. Yeah, you go.
In '55, I went back to Germany with MAG, their advisor, setting up the 20 detonators. And none of those German officers and pilots fought against us out of Indianapolis. They were all theoretically up on the Russian front. But they thought the same thing about the fact that if they had been allowed to use that, it would have been a different story about the war's outcome.
Colonel, we want to thank you for your time, and I'm sure that if there's other questions, we'll be happy to answer them in the next few minutes after we break. But Colonel, on behalf of the museum, I'd like to present you with a little plaque for your trip down to the museum, and we'd like you to go in and take a look at our P-51. It's not a red tail, but it's it's pretty. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, next week we'll be hearing about the A-10, the Warthog. Thank you very much.